Americans are drowning in credit card debt. Wages haven't kept up. What is it about today and Americans today that has put them in this situation?
Well, the American dream is now an American nightmare. And now we're basically a renter economy and a renter nation where people can't even afford the price of rent, let alone to buy a home. Expenses went up, wages didn't. Now everybody's feeling that squeeze, and that's where the middle class sits. People are going through hell. Anybody that's in that tech field, no matter how good you are, no matter how many millions of dollars that you make, you could be gone like that tomorrow with one email from HR. The security that we signed up for is no longer there. Freedom has never been further from employment. Stop asking the question, how can I make more money? And start asking the question, how can I become more valuable? Everyone is a genius in some way, shape, or form. Now, the point of life is figuring out what's your genius. If I could give one piece of advice to solving the American identity crisis, number one, recognizing that
You talk to everyday Americans about quitting their jobs on a daily basis, and you've helped multiple hundreds of people quit their jobs in pursuit of their dreams. Today, Americans are drowning in credit card debt. Wages haven't kept up. People are getting side hustles. They're working harder than ever. What is it about today and Americans today that has put them in this situation?
Today, freedom has never been further from employment. It used to be a point where everyone kind of had some remote jobs. We had some remote work. People were working for bosses that they liked, and they felt like a sense of security in corporate America, or they felt a sense of security working a job. The issue today is the jobs that our parents had and the jobs that our parents are pushing on us to get from anybody that's in college are not the same jobs that exist today. Before, you could work a minimum wage job, or not even a minimum wage job, but just like an average job, a decent, hard-working job. You put your 40 hours, 50 hours in, you're going to be able to buy a house with a picket fence. You're going to have a dog. You're going to have 2 kids in an accident, right? Like, oops, we have a third now. And so that was the American dream. So security is what employment represents. The only reason that people are an employee versus an entrepreneur is security. Now, what happens when you no longer have that same security in employment? That's where we're at today. So anybody that's in the tech field, no matter how good you are, no matter how many millions of dollars that you make, you could be gone like that tomorrow with one email from HR, okay? And we're seeing it happen across NVIDIA, across Tesla, across X, all across the board. People are just getting canned left and right. And so the security that we signed up for is no longer there, which makes entrepreneurship more attractive than ever. Now, should every single person in the world be an entrepreneur? And is everyone even capable of being an entrepreneur? I do not believe so. 95% of people are better off working a job. But for the 5% of people that are listening today, hopefully we can give them some pieces of advice, some mental frameworks, some tactical business practices, some investing principles that they can utilize to help them on their journey to doing what they want, when they want, with who they want. Because ultimately, the goal is not passive income for a life of ease and just sitting on a beach drinking margaritas. The goal is to go from work that you choose to do to doing work that you're forced to doing work that you choose to do, so that you can actually make an impact and drive results.
So how did we get to the place where jobs were secure and now they're not?
What happened was the U.S. government printed all this money, and now we have trillions of dollars of supply, and the money machine goes burr. And now all of a sudden, all the prices of goods have risen, housing costs have risen, and now we're basically a renter economy and a renter nation where people can't even afford the price of rent, let alone to buy a home, and wages have not increased with that increase. So expenses went up, wages didn't. Now everybody's feeling that squeeze, and that's where the middle class sits. And now they're just kind of throwing their hands up saying, wait, hold on a second. I was sold this bag of goods that if I put my head down, said, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and I worked really, really hard, and I put 6% away in my 401k, that one day, not only would I be able to have a house, a wife, a husband, like a good, comfortable life, but I would also be able to have a chance of retirement at 65 years old, to where then I can go travel and me and my spouse can go do whatever we want. And there's just no way that that's going to happen anymore. And people are feeling so far removed from it today. But the good news is we have now established enough pain to make a change, which is why people are watching this, or why people are listening to this. So the question is, what the hell do you do now? And the good news is that information and access has never been more freely available for people to learn all of these different tactics about investing, whether that be in real estate, in the stock market, in small businesses, which we can talk about, or most importantly, in yourself. For the last 10 years, the catchphrase has been passive income. I think that phrase has now died. People, especially people that are high performers that are making $100,000 plus in corporate, need to stop focusing on passive income, and they need to start focusing on massive income. So massive income is through business. Passive income is what you do after you're already rich. Passive income is what the wealthy do. This is what the rich do to become wealthy, not what you should do as a six-figure engineer to become financially free.
That's right. And so I want to go back to the wage gap real quick, because I believe that the wage gap and the stagnant wages for middle-class Americans is the source of the division, the frustration, the discontent, and the disillusion that you described. Because like you said, as millennials, we were all promised this vision, right? And you and I are a little bit different than the majority of America, because we've gone and done things that are outside of what the average person has done or is willing to do.
Because we felt enough pain to do it.
We felt enough pain to do it, exactly. And those that are listening know my story. It's very similar to Brian's. Brian has gone and done incredible things with Action Academy. But what do you say to the people that talk about pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do this and get a side hustle? Why has the American dream now become, I need to work my full-time job and I need to get a side hustle and?
Well, the American dream is now an American nightmare. So there's two paths we can take here that have diverged in the woods. Path number one is we can say, the government, the economy, my zip code, my skin color, my gender, I can't do it, And I'm just going to give up, and I'm just going to kind of throw my hands up in this one life that I've got on this spinning, floating rock through this infinite universe. I'm just going to kind of throw my hands up and say, damn, can't do it. Or path number two is you say, screw my resources. I'm going to get resourceful. And you're going to do something about it. And so one of my favorite quotes that people can take away, like this is a write or down or a screenshot for people that are watching this or listening to this, is there's only two paths that you can take in your world to get anything that you want. And that is, number one, you can increase your sacrifice, or number two, you can reduce your desire. Increase your sacrifice or reduce your desire. There is power in both. I had a gentleman join my community and say, Brian, I want to buy a small business. And so he paid us thousands of dollars to learn how to buy a small business. And within 10 days, he messaged me and he sent me an email I'm never going to forget. He said, Brian, I've loved everyone I've met. I have loved every module I've watched. I now understand what it takes to be an entrepreneur and to do this thing. And I've decided that I don't want to do that. I would actually prefer to just go back to my engineering job at Tesla and make $200,000 a year. And there's never been a moment where I've respected someone more, because it's either increase your sacrifice or reduce your desire. If you are on year 5 of not having a six-pack and you want to have a six-pack, you either need to have a hard conversation with yourself. And the same thing with investing is, am I willing to do what's required to hit this goal? Or number two, do I really want this goal? And the true answer, if people looked at themselves in the mirror, is number two. They actually don't want the goal. And if people would do an audit on what they say they want versus what they really want, they would have significantly more freedom, because there is as much freedom in not wanting something as there is in having it. There's the person that doesn't want the mansion and doesn't want the Ferrari and doesn't want the $35,000 Daytona is as free and as happy as the person that worked their asses off to get it.
I love this, because you're absolutely right. And if more people, it's not about letting go of your dreams. It's about either being honest with yourself.
Auditing your dreams. Is that your dream?
Yes.
Or is it the dream that you were programmed from society, from the news, from movies, from your parents, from all these other people to want for you?
Yeah. And the other flip side of that is there's a dream that's on their heart that was placed there by somebody or by themselves. It was their idea, their dream, if they're auditing, like you said, and they're honest with yourself, and they haven't yet met Brian Luebben, who can help them achieve their dreams. Because a lot of people don't have access or know where to go to get this information or know what's the right path for them. And so they may never achieve those dreams. But then a lot of people, they suffer because they put themselves through hell trying to achieve something that they aren't really passionate about, but they think that they wanted. If you thought you would be financially free by buying a bunch of homes in Kansas City, you're going to be really disappointed at the end of 5 years, 10 years when you don't have any money because you bought 10 houses in Kansas City. No offense, right? And so I love that you're saying be true to yourself. And tell me about the people that you talk to every day. So the software engineers, the doctors, the lawyers, the people that come to you. What are the different like stages or phases of people, and like who do you actually say no to into Action Academy?
Cool. So first off, he's mentioned Action Academy a few times, and that's our mastermind where we help people that are high performers in corporate go from employee to entrepreneur, and we do that through ownership. So buying small businesses or commercial real estate. Firstly, I want to address something that you just said, which is people are going through hell, and I think that it would be a good opportunity to define what hell is. And for me, hell is meeting the man that I could have been at the end of this journey of life, and looking at and seeing the version of me that I could have been. Meeting that person and saying, wow, there's a huge gap here between who I am and who you are or who you could have been. That is hell on earth.
For you.
For me and for anybody. I mean, another quote that I really love is, I don't want to get to heaven well rested.
Yeah.
You know? So to answer your question about who we help, and which is a more aggregate answer of, you know, who is somebody that's more predisposed or who is in a good position today and is closer to the goal of ownership, freedom, success than they even anticipate. So the main people that we normally talk to, we talk to thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are working right now. And most of them are either in sales, they're an engineer, or they're in tech. So that's the normal person that we speak with. They normally make six figures. They normally have $30,000 to $50,000 saved up. They have a couple of rental properties. They normally have an Airbnb or a rental property that they house hack, something along the lines. And they maybe have a little bit of cash flow, $500 to $1,000 a month, but it's so far removed from the gap of where they're trying to get to, which is $20,000 plus to actually make a meaningful dent towards their freedom. And so you have all of these people that are now realizing, oh, the path that I was sold 10 years ago on a real estate podcast no longer applies in today's market with today's interest rates. So you have to pivot and you have to find new strategies. So give me somebody that's hungry. Give me somebody that has high agency. Agency is a really important word that nobody talks about, and I would say is one of the single most defining characteristics of a successful entrepreneur is high agency. And agency is the distance between the gap of a thought or an emotion into action. If you are a high agency person, you don't need to be managed. You don't need to be led. As soon as you have an idea, boom, gone. It's a high say-do ratio. It's a low gap between action and idea and implementation.
Can you teach high agency?
You can teach it, but it's really nurtured from something that you already kind of have. Man, the people that I've seen that are low agency, it's tough. And that kind of goes into who we say no to. So if we are talking to somebody that isn't already being the best at where their feet are, you most likely do not have a good shot at owning your own thing. Why is that? This is a hard conversation that people need to have. We do this wacky, crazy thing in the online space, which is called, let's not just serve everyone with a credit card and a pulse. Crazy idea, right? But it works. And so how we focus on this is, number one, if you are working a job today, are you the best and are you performing at your highest and best capability and capacity in what you're doing today? If the answer is no, why the fuck do you think that you could be a successful business owner if you can't even be a successful employee? How are you going to have people working for you when you haven't even set a standard for yourself in the job that you're doing today? I wasn't the 17th person on my sales team of 17 in my office. I was number one. I was like, dude, success is the only outcome for this. The only outcome for me is more income. I will do what's required. I won't do my best. I'll do what's required. And so if you're not that person, like, frankly, you need to reduce your desire. You should not be a business owner. You should not be an entrepreneur. You should not be an investor, because you will half-ass that and nobody will invest with you, which actually leads to the second point, which is if somebody is riddled with debt and has poor finances, it's not time. You don't need to listen to this podcast. You actually need to turn this off. You need to go listen to Dave Ramsey. Ramsey's terrible for growing wealth and growing riches, but he's really, really damn good at getting you out of debt. So if you have a bunch of debt and you have poor money management skills, why do you think that now's the time for you to go take on investor capital and for you to take on payroll for paying employees in business, and you think that you're okay with doing that?
It's because they're fed up with their current situation. They're dissatisfied, disenfranchised. They don't know any way out.
Cool. Well, then be the best at where you're at today, and then go ahead and become the person, act like the person, move like the person, talk like the person, dress like the person, live like the person that you want to become. That's what you got to do.
No, nobody's coming to save you.
Nobody.
Phrase, even though there's people like you out there that have Action Academy and pretty much everybody that goes into your...
I'm not buying the assets for you. That's on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But acting as if you're destined to become. And that means actually embodying your future self. Like back when I was in corporate, there was a phrase, it was like, be your promoted self.
Yeah.
So like if you're a junior engineer and you want to be a senior engineer, or you want to be a manager or director, act as if you are that person already. Do the things that that person does. Just like go do the things that your future self does. And some of the advice that I give to people that are coming into my community are like, go get a promotion at work. Go build your skills at work, your current job.
Be an entrepreneur before an entrepreneur.
Exactly. Be an entrepreneur before an entrepreneur. Because if you go skill build at your current job, one, you're going to get better, you're going to be more fulfilled, and you're going to accelerate your ability to quit your job sooner, and you're going to create a niche, and right? Like, and you may find that you don't want to quit your job. You just want to buy a bunch of Airbnbs or whatever on the side and build some wealth on the side and still be an engineer at Tesla. And that's totally okay. Like, but that's your point of like auditing your dreams.
So we've mentioned the word dreams a few times, but 99% of people, if you walk up to them on the street and say, what's your dream? They have no idea. And so to that person, I would say, if you do not have a crystal clear vision for what you want your life to look like if anything was possible, and you could wave a magic wand, what your life looks like, if you do not have a vision for that, you will every single day when you wake up, go to work for the person that has a crystal clear vision for theirs. And so if you are not actively working on creating your dream life, you are actively working to help somebody else create their dream life. And that's going to be your manager, it's going to be your CEO, the shareholders of the company, everyone else besides you. And you know why? It's because you just never took the energy and the intention to sit down with a freaking piece of paper and a pencil and write it out.
Yep.
And that is 100% free that anyone could do. I don't care if you're a janitor or if you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
It's because people want it to be perfect. There's a couple reasons why people don't do this. They might have it on their heart, they might have it on their mind, but they don't write it down. Number one, they don't speak it out loud because then they're committing to something that they're afraid of, or they want it to be perfect. They don't do it because it's not the perfect dream or it's not the best dream. It's like move in a direction. And you will figure out exactly what it is that you're meant to be doing.
Yeah, let's talk about perfection and then let's talk about fear, because if we can nail these two terms, people can have enough ammo and enough tools in their tool belt watching this and listening to this to actually take action on whatever they're doing, whether they already have a $10 million portfolio or they have $100 in their pocket, right? So first off, let's talk about perfection. Perfection and progress cannot coexist. And what is progress? Progress is happiness. Sit with that for a second, everybody. What is progress? Progress is happiness. Everybody is talking about what is the secret to happiness. Is it contentment? Is it the pursuit? Is it more and more and more? The secret to happiness is progress. It's not necessarily monetary progress or getting richer. It's just every single day you're moving one step closer towards a goal. Whether that's being the best father and you're spending time and you're taking your kids, to school. If it's getting your 10,000 steps in, if it's drinking your water, if it's kissing your spouse, it's just like you're progressing one step towards your ideal, towards your goal. So perfection and progress cannot coexist. Everybody has this idea that the person that makes 10 times to 100 times to 1,000 times more than them is this perfect ideal, right? It's like this God amongst men. But I would argue that the more rooms that you get into, you can actually see, feel, and touch these people, and you realize that they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. And it gives you permission to say, got it. I don't either. And that's this crazy magical secret that now you're about to be 40. I'm in my 30s now. And when you turn 30 and 40, you know, all these people that are in their 50s and 60s talk to you like a peer and an equal now. They don't see you as just a spoiled kid. And they told me the secret, Kassidy, and the secret is nobody knows what they're doing. There's no manual on how to be a human. There's no manual on how to be an entrepreneur. Everyone's figuring it out. So nobody's perfect. Nobody's even got a chance at perfection. And once you give yourself permission to not be perfect, that's where you can finally have progress, and that's where you can finally have happiness. Now let's take it back a step. We're not even talking about investing yet. Why do you feel you need to be perfect? Because as a kid, you probably had a parent withdraw love from you.
Oh, Brian, I love that you're bringing this up.
And that's why you feel a need for perfection. Because when you were young and when you were growing up, mommy or daddy didn't pay enough attention to you, or both didn't. And you needed to be someone to get their attention, and then their attention equaled love for you. Because when you're a kid, love is spelled T-I-M-E.
Yep.
Time.
That's right.
And so for me, it was my father. Dad wasn't around. And whenever he wasn't paying attention to me, I said, well, by God, I'm going to be as successful as humanly possible to make my success and my love undeniable. And so that's where this feeling for being perfect comes from. It's a coping mechanism.
And it's a control mechanism too. If
Yep.
I can control my outcome and control my environment, then the love will come, or the success will come. And so for me, very similar experience for me. And I remember the day in second grade that I made the decision that I was going to be the best student, get the best grades. And that carried with me throughout my entire childhood, sports, college, my career, everything, working in corporate. And I gave and I gave and I gave, and that turned into perfectionism. But that prevented me from like being my authentic self and feeling okay. And I was giving everything away. And so let me ask you a question. Why are dumb people more successful than smart people?
Because they're dumb enough to believe in themselves. So here's the thing. First off, dumb and smart is subjective. And a lot of people that feel dumb, I would argue that everybody's a genius at something. And the U.S. education system and the schooling system is created for the lowest common denominator. And it's built to fit everyone into these little boxes, right? And my favorite quote to drive this point home is Albert Einstein had this quote where if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, everyone will feel stupid. Everyone is a genius in some way, shape, or form. I wholeheartedly believe that. Now, the point of life is figuring out what's your genius, right? So, but to answer your question is, the best students, the valedictorians, the straight A students are not normally the ones that make the cheddar, right? They normally end up working for the C students. Now, why is that? It's because the C student is not afraid to fail because they're not chasing perfection. They are just out there breaking things, moving fast and growing. So they're willing to take a risk. So now that brings us to the second point where I said, let's talk about perfection and now let's talk about fear, right? Because what is failure? Are we actually afraid of it? No. What are we afraid of?
Being seen.
We're afraid of the appearance of failure.
Yes.
And so if you pick up a heavy weight in a gym, it's an analogy I love using, and it's a visual that people can understand. If you go pick up a heavy weight in a gym and you fail, and you're in a gym by yourself, who cares? You don't. You're going to go try to pick it up again. But if you fail in front of others, oh my God, how are you going to recover from that? Mm-hmm. The answer to the question of, how do you overcome that is the realization that you need to get out of your own ego and realize that nobody cares. Nobody's watching you. Nobody really cares what you're doing. And that is wonderful. Everybody is so egocentric, whether consciously or subconsciously, that you think that everybody's observing every singular move that you make. But the reality is if I freaking took my pants off and ran through San Diego naked, everyone would be like, oh, this is a normal Tuesday. And then they'd be like, that's crazy. And then they'd go on about their day.
Yep. Nobody
would care. And so when you give yourself permission to okay, cool. Failure is part of it. If you reframe failure to this is what's necessary and how many no's do I need to get and play the game of no? The game of no will make you millions, man. If you play the game of no, which is how many no's do I need to get a yes? And that's in, investing, that's in business, that's in real estate, that's in your job. How many no's do I need to get to a yes? And I knew that for my sales career when I was still employed, I was like, man, if I get about 17 no's, I'm due for a yes. And the higher the reward, the more no's that you have to get, right? So you're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of the appearance of failure. And now let's talk really quickly to kind of land the plane here about fear. I've got 3 definitions of fear that I've known to be true. Number 1 is false evidence appearing real, completely manufactured. Number 2 is face everything and rise. Love face everything and rise.
Love that.
And then the 3rd is fuck everything and run. But let's not do that one. Let's do number 2. Face everything and rise, man. You're like, you're going to stare it at the face and I'm going to jump out of the airplane anyways. You know, I'm going to have trust here. And then that's where success is found. So when you realize and you just remove those 2 stories, if you could just remove 2 stories from yourself, which is number 1, that you have to be perfect, and number 2, that other people care about what you're doing, the world is your oyster. And you see your life as this giant grand movie that you're the director of. And so a really great framing question for everybody that's watching this is, are you living a movie that you would actually watch? And most people are not. 100%. If you were the main character in a movie, is it a comedy? Is it a tragedy? Is it a drama? Is it an action movie? Like, your life is a movie. And right now, man, a lot of people, like, that's going to get a bad score on Rotten Tomatoes. You know?
Guaranteed.
It's going to flop.
Everybody that's listening and watching right now, just like fast forward your life 5 years at your corporate career. Are you just 1 or 2 promotions and like making, 5 to 10% more than you were? Are your kids now leaving the house and you haven't spent as much time with them as you want? Like the problem is that like the system and society and this fear and perfectionism, it has like prevented people from living their true purpose and their true dreams, right? Like whatever that is, like you help people quit their jobs. I like sort of same thing that I do, but like really my deep passion is to get people the foundation of having ownership in something so that they can leverage that to make money so that they can go do whatever they want. It's not about becoming a full-time real estate investor or even becoming a full-time small business owner. It's about creating something so you can then live your truest purpose.
Yeah, let's get everyone rich as fast as humanly possible so that you can understand it's not the answer to happiness.
And
happiness is a separate muscle than finances.
What are people's money rackets around becoming rich, perceptions of rich people? Why do they not allow themselves to make more money? Like, what have you encountered with all of the people that you work with on their money rackets?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking about like money mindsets and beliefs, right? So, everybody's looking for the strategy. Everyone's looking for the shiny button, like the big red button. What was it? The Office Depot commercial was the easy button. You press the easy button, all of a sudden, magically everything happens for you. But if that were true, you wouldn't care because you didn't put any work into it. If you just took a gondola to the mountaintop, you wouldn't care versus if you spent 14 hours hiking, right? So it's actually the progress again is the happiness. It's not the end result. It's the progression towards an end result.
It's the journey, not the destination.
It's the journey, not the destination, right?
Yep.
The biggest thing about money is people use the word money when it's actually the incorrect word to use. So if you stop thinking about money and you start thinking in terms of value, everything shifts. So stop asking the question, how can I make more money? And start asking the question, how can I become more valuable? Now, everybody immediately leaps to what strategy can I use to become more valuable? But strategy is actually the last thing that you want to focus on in the very beginning. There's 2 parts to this formula, and there's 2 parts to this equation, which I call the freaking freedom equation, the freedom formula, and that is state, story, and strategy. So, and it's sequential. It's 1 by 1. Number 1, state. Number 2, story. Number 3, strategy. So everyone's trying to focus on the strategy, which is what's the Airbnb? What's the hotel? How do I buy a small business? How do I invest in the stock market? How do I do online sales or like be a high ticket closer? All these different strategies, right? But you're not doing anything with it. So why is that? So it's because your state is incorrect and your stories that you're telling yourself are incorrect. So that's where all this money stuff comes in. So I can fix all your money and all your limiting beliefs all in just this one exercise, which is state, story, strategy. And I got this from Tony Robbins. Spent $550,000 literally over the last 3 years, and finally went to one conference across all the coaches, all the masterminds, all the events, everything that I've done for personal development. Finally went to one Tony Robbins event, and this is where I got this framework from. And I'm going to go ahead and preface this and package this with, doing this exercise and doing this framework increased my business by 600% in 1 year. 600%. And that wasn't going from 1,000 to 6,000. That was like millions of dollars in my pocket in 1 year. And so what is state, story, strategy? So state is how you show up in the world, physically, energetically, and emotionally. So your state is arguably the most important thing that is completely free. You don't need to have any like crazy dollar signs to control your state. It's simply a decision. And it's a small set of certain actions that you need to take to control your state. So your state is the difference between your friend who lights up a room, who's the absolute power plant, who's sitting like this and speaking like this, where you have a degree of absolute certainty with what you're saying and people listen, versus kind of figuring things out, man. Like, I'm not entirely sure, life is, You can call that person out a mile away. If I said, Kassidy, I'm going to be successful, you wouldn't believe me, man.
And honestly, you looked completely different. In that moment of you shifting your state.
You would not believe me, so you don't believe you. And if you don't believe you and you don't start from a place of absolute certainty, whenever you're taking an action, whenever you're moving, how the hell else is the world going to believe you? How is the universe going to believe you? How's God going to believe you? If you believe in God, I do. And so your state is something that is a conscious decision. Now, so for my introverts listening, this is also something that you can control. You don't need to be this crazy bubbling extrovert that goes and does golden retriever energy to everyone. But it starts with sitting upright, like being in a state of absolute certainty. You can do this through meditation. You can do this through going and getting a walk. You can do this through your posture, through your body language.
Dancing. You can play music and dance, shifting your energy.
Freaking music. Think about how you feel when your favorite song comes on, or think about how you feel when you're at a concert. Being at a concert with your favorite artist playing and you're in the audience and everybody's in the same vibration and energy, that is called peak state. Where you are just like, man, I'm 100% aligned. I'm 100% like here, like let's freaking go. So the number one thing is controlling your state, because if you are stressed out, pissed off, sleep deprived, and dehydrated, and you're slumped over a desk, everything, and you're just slaving away at trying to figure out this strategy on ChatGPT for 6 hours, you're not going to figure it out because you're not in the correct state.
100%.
So the answer to this question is, how do you get in the proper state? For me, it's very simple. It's like, I like to get some sunlight. I want to make sure that I've got some water. And for me, I'm getting movement. I have to get my heart rate up. I walked here to do this podcast because it got me moving, and it gets your blood flowing, and it gets you thinking about things. That's why all of the greatest philosophers in history all took walks in the woods. Like Albert Einstein was famous for always going on walks in the woods. If you are stuck, get moving.
Yep.
It's both a metaphorical and a physical command.
100%.
If you are stuck, get moving. Don't sit at your desk. Get the hell up. Get a water bottle. Get outside. Even if you just need to walk around the block, go start walking and thinking.
Yeah, this is a personal responsibility, accountability. Like, we are human beings. We are creatures. We are meant to move. We are meant to be. We are meant to be in community around others. And yet we are now sitting in our homes, in our holes and dark corners. But our environment matters so much.
Nothing matters more.
Yeah, nothing matters more. Think about people in the dark north half of the year, like huddled up inside, compared to people that are down south out in the sun all the time, and the amount of energy and things going on and movement and excitement and connection with people.
I went to Tromsø in Norway. It's spelled Tromso, to see the Northern Lights. And when I went up there, they have the midnight sun for half the year, and the other half of the year they have like complete darkness.
Yeah, like 24 hours basically.
Yeah, and so their bridge has these giant like 20-foot gates on each side because people would jump off of it and kill themselves.
Yep.
Because of the darkness.
Yep.
So side tangent here, but if you are in an environment that does not fire you up, I don't care if you go get the crappiest, shittiest apartment in the nicest area that's going to make you happy. I don't care if you know nobody that's going to be where you want to go. The number one singular best investment that you can make in your life is where you live.
100%.
It's going to control who you meet from dating, in a dating perspective. So who your mother of your children or father of your children is going to be. It controls your job opportunities. It controls your happiness. It controls your health.
Yeah.
It controls everything.
Yeah, well, it's the Malcolm Gladwell book, Turning Point, where he talks about essentially proximity. Bill Gates, who's my backyard, he had access to the world's like first supercomputer.
In his school.
Look what happened, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then there's other stories in that book, but proximity is power. And so I live in a town that it's called Kirkland, and everyone knows I talk about I'm a huge stan of that city because I was very intentional about living there because of the fulfillment and happiness I get being on the lake, being able to paddleboard all the time, being next to Google, all the people there, the connections, the amount of money that's in that city versus like, I don't know, in Austin, where you're from, like where you would like, I'm never going to live over there because that's not my environment. But
I love it. Yeah. When I moved to Austin, my entire life changed.
No,
But
I mean outside of Austin.
Yeah,
Like if there's
yeah.
another outside of Austin where you wouldn't want to live.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's a tangent to go back to state. So your state controls your fate, right? So number one thing, if you feel stuck right now, you need to get up, you need to get moving. If you are stuck, get in motion physically. Number two is the stories that we tell ourselves. So this is where 80% of the hang up is right here. It's not in the strategies and the freaking stories that you're telling yourself. And the stories that you tell yourself are the like, dude, if somebody came up to us, we all scream at the media and scream at all these people for being liars or being, fake news, right? But none of us look in the mirror and think about all the freaking fake news and the 7 inches between our freaking ears. Like, everyone is telling themselves these stories, and you will always find evidence for what you choose to believe. And so if you choose to believe that you can do something versus can't do something, you're right both times. And you will find evidence to support both claims, right? So stories that you tell yourself are 10 times out of 10 the reason that you're not doing the things. And so I'll give you a couple of examples for me. I had a 6-figure business that I took to 7-figure business from the singular story shift of nobody can do sales besides me. Nobody can do it better than me. So therefore, I did everything myself. I couldn't hire sales reps. Easy strategy, hire sales reps. Do interviews, post a job ad, do interviews, onboard them, train them, hire a sales rep. I had a story I was telling myself, right? I had a story I was telling myself about the month of September in our business where I said, okay, well, September is just a bad month. Last September, I almost didn't make payroll in our business. I didn't pay myself because our revenue dropped 40%. And I said, well, everybody's coming home everyone's got school, everyone's getting ready for the holidays. Like, it's just a bad month for my business. This September, I completely changed my frame, my state. I changed my story and I said, no matter what, there's no other option. I'm showing up every single day to put 300 sales calls on this calendar, and we're going to have a record-setting month. In Kassidy, we had a 400% increase this month, and we set the record for our company this month in September. We're recording this October 1st.
And so the point there is that you change your state,
and you change my story,
and you change your
I changed the story. So
and surprisingly, not surprisingly, the outcome changed.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I found the strategy. The strategy was simple, and the strategy was do a webinar, hire a sales team. Is that rocket science? No. So same thing. So now we're going back to money. And so are we going to sit here and talk about the strategy of money? We can. But people are just going to listen to this and go turn on another podcast. So, but now they have these two tools they could put in their tool belt of state and story. They can control their state immediately because your state controls your fate. And your stories that you tell yourself, here's a crazy thought that makes a lot of sense when you hear it logically, but it just takes some time to digest. If you have not actively considered the stories that you are telling yourself, they were never yours to begin with. So you are clinging so hard onto stories that never even were yours to begin with. A good visual representation of this is think of yourself like a computer, to your point. Like a computer has like hardware, software. So the hardware is the actual plastic shell casing of the computer. The software is the operating system that you run off of it. So if you have not actively and intentionally updated your operating system, which is how you think about things and see the world as an adult, you're running of an operating system that was placed back in the early 2000s or the 90s or the 80s or the 70s, however old you are, from your parents and from your school teachers and from your kindergarten class. So it's crazy when you think about it like that. You're like, oh shit, it's time to update my operating system. So yeah, we all have all these stories, man. So we have these stories of, number one, back to perfection. If I'm not perfect, I can't be loved. If I fail, I cannot be loved.
If I fail, that's it. Everything falls apart.
Yeah, if I fail, everything's going to crumble down. Oh, that's for other people, not for me. You have your financial thermostat theory, which is you make the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And so if you take all of their incomes, you add them up, you're always going to be the average of the 5. So that's another big one is, oh, this is how much we make. We're not rich people.
Yep.
We don't have the same access. We don't have the same opportunities. We don't have the same whatever. And so these are all stories that we tell ourselves of why we can and why we can't do things. And for me, the single biggest shift in me, anybody that meets me knows that I move with such intense degrees of certainty that I know billionaires and 100 millionaires to say, yeah, you're next. You'll figure it out.
Yep.
The strategy is the most commonly and readily available component of all of this.
But you take committed, urgent action every single day, every single moment.
Because that is how I choose to show up. Every day, it's a muscle. It's not like a light switch. Every single day, like you brush your teeth, you drink your water, you eat food, the same thing as I am choosing to move with absolute certainty today.
Say that again. Say the first part again.
What do you mean?
No, because there's a very important word that you said in that sentence.
Choose.
That's right. You're choosing to do it. And what people fail to realize is that whatever you are not choosing, it's being chosen for you. But you have the power to choose what you do every single day and how you show up in your state, how you act, all that. One more question on this. Do introverts exist?
I mean, yeah. But look, riddle me this. Get an introvert, and put them in a room with somebody that has similar really niche interests to them, and they are going to be the most talkative, yapper that ever existed, right?
That's right.
Introverts are more selective with who they give energy and spend energy on, but I think that labels are a dangerous thing to put. Labels are a dangerous thing to place. And so all of us have different modes and different zones, right? And we have different natural tendencies. So sometimes it's more of a muscle that's trained than other times. But I know sales reps that are introverts that are top sales reps because they just think about things and they move differently and they have to activate differently. Bill Gates was an introvert. I was reading his autobiography. It's called Source Code. And he talked about the ability of sitting down in front of a computer and not saying a word for 6 days. He's just getting his food and just sitting down and working. So, I mean, it's a superpower, dude. Everyone has a superpower.
We were talking last night about ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Why is the decline in ownership hurting American security and patriotism?
If I could give one piece of advice as a random guy on the internet to solving the American identity crisis, right? So, because there's nothing more important than, number one, recognizing that America is the greatest country on earth. And we are all blessed and lucky to be here, especially in the freaking year of our Lord 2025 and onwards. This is the year that there's so much opportunity and there's so much momentum moving forward. Yes, we all have problems. Every country in the universe has problems. Every country on earth has problems. But one of the biggest problems that I see in America today is the fact that we are moving towards a renter society, not an owner society. And I think that if we could just solve this one problem, everyone would, at the same time, become significantly more patriotic. And so what I mean by this is when you have a giant generation of people that do not own the land that they live on, how do you feel like an American? So before it was, okay, this is my land, this is my backyard, this is my front yard, this is my house, I'm going to protect it. This is where my kids live, this is where my family lives, right? I own this. I own a piece of America. And I'm going to do what I need to do to defend this. And that means going to war. It means working my ass off in my job. It means providing for my family. That's what I'm going to get up and do. But when you're renting an overpriced apartment with the same color of eggshell white paint that some random corporate landlord is trying to raise rent on you for when your income hasn't increased, how the hell do you feel obligated to defend the land that your freaking plot is on? So there's nothing more important in America today than making sure that home ownership is available and affordable to every single person. Every single person should have a home to live in. Now, does that mean every person deserves a freaking mansion? No, that's by merit. But every single person deserves a home to live in. And so I think, number one, that starts bureaucratically. It's not the landlords. There's thousands of people in real estate that are actively trying to solve this problem. It's the bureaucratic in the government that is the issue. It's the zoning, it's the permitting, it's the local and city governments, it's the county governments that are not allowing this to happen. So if it starts with government first at a local level, then the permitting process is easy and the building materials can come down, then all of a sudden everybody's got houses to live in. It's possible. It just takes intention.
How does that affect the economy though? Because if there's not enough homes, desirable homes, like in Austin, right? If there's not enough desirable, affordable homes because the demand is so high in Austin and in Seattle and in San Diego, like, are they just building homes outside of the city, but nobody wants to live there? Or how does that work?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you can't all live in the city. I spent freaking 4 years of my life living in a house hack in the basement of my property 45 minutes outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Not everyone can afford to live in the middle of the city, but I still had a nice house. It was a 5-bedroom house that I rented the other bedrooms out to, you know? So, I mean, beggars can't be choosers in this context, right? So, I mean, when it comes to home prices, like even as somebody that now is financially free, like I'm in the top 0.0001% of income in the world, let alone America now, and I'm still renting because I still can't afford to buy. Because if I were to buy right now, I'd pay 4 times more than what I pay for rent. Mm-hmm. So if I'm renting, everyone's renting, and it's just a massive problem.
I'm renting.
Yeah,
for that same reason.
We're all renting, man. We're all renting, and so but to the credit of the podcast, it's like there's nothing that you and I can do about that today. So I mean, right now it's something that hopefully is done by somebody else, but from the perspective of locus of control, like what can we do on this podcast today to actually give somebody something to take away? We're not going to change the local government, so maybe we can move into some strategies and some stuff that they could do, even if they are renting, to be able to make something of themselves.
Well, and the flip side of that, to create ownership through renting, This is what I tell people is don't buy your home to live in as your first property. Go rent or go do what you did and buy and live in the basement or the spare bedroom or whatever, and go use that money to go buy an investment property. Because if you do that, if you buy your primary today, you are probably setting yourself behind like 4 or 5 years, actually, with the amount of cash that you had to put down. It's a liability. It's not making you any money, right? So you're setting yourself behind versus if you took that same money and bought an investment property, whatever it is, whether it's an RV park or short-term rental or whatever, now you're generating income and equity and tax benefits. So your ability to then go buy your dream home actually accelerates if that's what you want to go do. But you're still owning. You're still owning.
Everybody starts with the idea of dream home, and I'm 6 years into investing. I'm still not buying my dream home.
Nope, me neither.
I'm still pushing it off because I want my passive income. I want my investments to pay for my dreams. I don't want to use my active income to pay for my dreams. I want my passive income to pay for my dreams. So here's my other thing in the financial freedom community that pisses me off and why I don't like a lot of them. Is that they're all so like frugal, scrape a nickel, like don't have fun. I think that's stupid. I love spending money, dude. I'm great at it. I'm great at spending money.
You're one of the best, Brian.
I'm great at spending money.
It's something I love about you. I really appreciate it about you.
It's a secret talent of mine.
One of my biggest problems with real estate actually is that it is sort of more of a scarce mindset community because of the passive income mindset and like, oh, I got to put my down payment and I got to reduce expenses. I can't afford to hire people because my returns will, decrease, or there's not a lot of what I would say abundance in real estate because it's like you're trying to cut every penny to make the cash flow work and make the property work, right?
Yep.
Versus someone like you who has said, my time and my effort is more worth me building my business and growing my business and hiring people. That's actually an abundant mindset versus, oh, I'm just going to go save taxes by buying a short-term rental.
And that's the reason that I do not get along with most of the financial freedom communities, because they want to save and scrimp and rub 2 nickels together. And the issue is that they are focused on gaining freedom through investing. Investing is what you do later when you already have the income. If you do not yet have massive income, you should not focus on passive income. Massive income first, which is how can I generate more and more and more and more income? And people are trying to do it the low and slow way, which is, oh, I'm going to buy rental properties. I'm going to buy an Airbnb. I'm going to go do this other stuff. I'm like, no, like number one, Like, how can you increase the income in the job that you're at today? So how can you be where your feet are? Number two, how can you have a side hustle on the side? Because between 9 to 5 is where you make a living. Between 5 to 9 is where you make a life. How do you have a side hustle on the side that you can increase your income from? That's how I was able to leave corporate. I didn't purely passive income my way out. I was able to build businesses on the side while I was still working that allowed me to have the cash flow necessary to leave, right? And then number three is, how do you build and buy companies of your own? And so I think that, buying a company is significantly easier than building a company because I built for, bought for. But, for me, I'm like, instead of focusing on how do I get $200 or $500 a month in passive income from buying this asset, that's a lot of work. Like, why don't you just focus on how do I increase my income by $500 to $1,000 a month? That's significantly easier. And so, again, like massive income before passive income. So now I made my income massive by focusing on building and buying businesses, and I buy cash flow, and I only think about cash flow. And now I convert that to equity, which then gives me dividends and yield, and that's my passive income. So my active income is about 10 times my passive income that I've built. So my active income this year will be over 2 million, and my passive's about a quarter.
Yeah.
And that's after 3 years. 3 years ago, I was walking around aimless, lost, in freaking Brazil, no idea what I was doing. 3 years is what it took to build this.
It's been wild to watch your journey because you've gone through all the phases of entrepreneurship too. Like everything that you've sort of described, passive income, quit your job, sort of figured out that real estate wasn't fast
I thought
enough.
it was the answer.
Yeah, I thought it was the answer too.
Yeah.
And then now what I've really realized, one, it is an answer to get you out of that first step, right? Create a foundation of security almost that you can then go leverage to go do whatever you want. But the real wealth is generated in becoming an entrepreneur, a leader, a business owner. And you did it. You were a solopreneur. You had a couple people. And I remember you were like really frustrated, struggling at certain points. And then now, that was like a year ago. And then now you're sitting here talking about an 8-figure business that you're creating. I can see that you're more fulfilled. You called in your girlfriend, who you've been calling in for years now, right? And you're sharing and helping and supporting people more than I've ever seen. There's this Brian Luebben, and I talked to you about this. I remember I talked to you about this. There's this Brian Luebben years ago. You've always been here, but it was like, it's not that you were self-centered, but that's almost, I think, how people see you or saw you. And now the Brian that I see today is someone who is truly giving back, truly connecting, and is also unapologetic in who he is. And I fucking love that.
Yeah, I had to be self-centered because you have to have a sheer force of will to like build something, to force something from scratch. For somebody to, if you want to know, here's a good rule of thumb to determine if you are capable of building a business from scratch. If you have to ask if you're capable of building a business from scratch, you're not capable of building a business from scratch. You don't have it.
Yeah.
If you are just delusional enough to be like, I'm going to figure this shit out, come hell or high water, give me a brick wall, I'm going to bust through it. Like, that's the person that's going to build a business. And that's what it took. And dude, if you want to, we can pivot to talking about dating, because I actually think that now that that's a part of my life, and I haven't ever spoken about it on podcast for 3 years because I've been single looking for my person. I wasn't capable of being in a relationship prior because my entire life, energy, and focus was on my business. I had to have that singular focus. I had to have a sacrifice. I had to have a rocky cutscene of 2 years to be able to build the life that I have today, which is a life of ownership, not operation. Most people are business operators, they're not business owners. And you have to pay the tax to understand that. I had enough pain that got me out of it. I was losing my hair. This is $4,000 from Mexico City right now. I lost my hair. I had a freaking gut. I was stressed out of my freaking gourd running my business for the first 2 years. And most people are spending 20 years doing that. Yeah. Because they don't understand what the other side looks like. And so, dude, now I'm on the other side to where as we're sitting here, like, I think I've done like $30,000, $40,000 today. Mm-hmm. As I walked up here, I ate a sandwich. I had a couple of meetings, Zoom calls with my team, and now I'm doing this podcast with you. And my business is operating without me. My Northern Lights tour company is doing tours without me. My hood cleaning companies are cleaning kitchen hoods in Kansas City without me. My freaking gym is being built in Nashville, Tennessee, and my hotel is being graded right now in South Florida. And all of this is happening independent of me while I sit here as a business owner that has systems, processes, profits, and people that are yielding the passivity for me today.
And I think, let me just speak on why I think you've been so successful. That is different than a lot of the other gurus or people on the internet. Because you're not just a person on the internet. You built a business centered around generating massive amounts of value for the people that enter your world. Right. Anyone that is in your sphere and enters your world will become financially free if they do what you say, if they use the tools, if they use the resources. But you create so much value in your life and in your people that it was inevitable, as long as you decided to take that next step in the level of leadership and be able to delegate and hire and do everything that you needed to do, it was inevitable that you were going to get to this point and even further.
Yeah, it's about having a vision large enough for other people's visions to fit with.
100%.
You cannot have a millionaire mentor if you have $100 goals. Like, you must increase your goals. You must increase your vision, because right now I have higher and higher and higher level people that work for me and with me. And so my vision has to be large enough for all of their visions to fit with it, you know? And it's just like, the craziest thing is, again, we go back to stories that we were telling ourselves. My state was terrible for 2 years. I was stressed out, pissed off. Your IQ physically drops when you're stressed out and sleep deprived. And so for 2 years, I was living like that. And I was telling myself these stories of, nobody can do it better than me. This is what's required. And I just didn't know any better, you know? And now I know better, which, if you want to, we can talk about, after $545,000 of investment and 3 years of figuring this crap out, I created a system and a formula for people to actually go through that will yield them the passivity, because everyone's talking about, oh, go buy a business, go buy a hotel, go buy an Airbnb. If you're ready to talk strategy, let's talk strategy.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it, because you are hating on Airbnbs now. I see it. And I still love it for certain people.
I like Airbnbs are fine.
No, it's fine.
Airbnbs are fine. Everything is fine. It's really hard to scale Airbnbs.
It is. It's hard to scale Airbnbs. It gets you out of your corporate job. It helps you save on tax. There's a lot of benefits to it. But you are focusing on cash flowing businesses. Tell me.
Yeah, but this still applies. Look, here's the cool part. You want to hear something real cool, Kassidy?
Yes, Brian.
If you want to buy an Airbnb, this works too. If you want to buy a multifamily, this works. If you want to buy self-storage, this works. If you want to buy a service in a plumbing company, this works. This is the process that nobody talks about. I created this, and this is going to make people billions of dollars, because you are sold a lie, which is that acquisition alone will get you freedom. Acquisition alone of buying the assets will get you freedom. Every guru with a course, every person with a podcast, every person with a freaking camera on Instagram is telling you how to buy multifamily, how to buy Airbnbs, how to buy all this stuff. Anybody that's an operator in this space will tell you that the buy is just like, congratulations, you're now choosing to hike up the mountain. This is not the mountaintop. You just decided to start hiking. You got out of the car. Congrats. You got a granola bar with you. So there's 3 parts to freedom that people don't understand, and acquisition is only the first part. And we're talking specifically about acquisition entrepreneurship here. So it's acquisition, acclimation, architecture. And this is the most important thing that maybe I'll create in my life, you know, before my children. Acquisition, acclimation, architecture. Because what was happening, hand to God, us too. In the beginning, we thought that acquisition was the answer. I was like, if I help people buy millions of dollars of assets, they will become financially free and live the lives that they decide to live. And we did over $300 million of acquisition. We've done $500 million of acquisition now in Action Academy, and people still weren't free. And so that's where the next 2 parts of this equation came from, because I started asking the question, well, what's wrong? Why am I free and they aren't, and they're not? So acquisition is taking ownership of the asset that produces you money. Acclimation is, how do I physically, emotionally, and mentally now switch from the hat of employee to the hat of entrepreneur to the hat of business owner? Like, how do I not only emotionally and mentally, you know, acclimate to this new reality, but now what's the tactical acclimation process? Like, how do I go manage people now and lead people? And how do I do this transition period where this previous owner is now giving it to me, and now I have to stabilize the asset in commercial real estate in an Airbnb, right? Mm-hmm. Architecture is the process of now building all of the systems, building the team, building the org chart and the processes, whereby a result gets accomplished without you and the business drivers get accomplished without you. So nobody's talking about acclimation and architecture. They're just throwing people to the wolves and saying, okay, go buy this boutique hotel. Go buy this multifamily property. Go buy this small business. Again, guilty. I didn't know any better, but nobody else is doing anything to fix it. So I'm sure as hell leading the charge now. So say a hotel, for instance. I'm building a $14 million hotel in South Florida right now. If we just build the hotel and put it live, is that going to make me financially free? No, it's how you manage the hotel. So how does that hotel run without me being involved in being in Florida? How do the processes work, right? So if people realize that that's 99% of the game and acquisition is the first 1%, then that's when we can start actually getting people the freedom that they deserve and that they want. It's just they think that just the purchase is going to be enough. It's not. And so that's why I'm so excited to begin this journey and get this freedom framework out in front of people, because now they can start to have a freaking roadmap and they can say, okay, I got it. Like the way that I view it is, have you ever been on a plane where they have like crazy turbulence?
Yeah.
But the pilot doesn't say anything about it? Yeah. Like freaking douchebags just sitting up front, not talking, right?
Yeah, and
you're like, oh, I'm going to die. Versus if the pilot says, hey, Captain Pete speaking, in the next 10 minutes, we're going to experience a little bit of rough air, small patch, small pocket. It'll be fine. We're not going to fall out of the sky. Everyone's going to be okay. I'm going to put the fasten seatbelt sign right on real quick. Then we're going to get through it nice and smooth. Everyone's going to be okay. And then as soon as you feel the same turbulence, then you're like, oh, okay, this wasn't too bad. And so these are the turbulence points: acquisition, acclimation, architecture. So people can know that it's coming and therefore not only get in the game, but stay in the game.
Yeah, and I think hospitality is a great example of that, because we've all been at hotels that are terribly run, and the owners may still be making money, but they're not like...
Those are the ones that we're buying too.
Those are the ones that we're buying because they got into it. So many hotels that we look at, they're like, oh yeah,
mom and pop owner.
We bought it and we actually don't know how to run hotels.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so that's why people like you that are doing this are so important. And you put this framework together, but it's also can be very simple, right? Like it could be very simple. How do you manage a housekeeper? How do you manage people? How do you talk to people? Like, how do you also scale up? Because that's what you're talking about too, is like, if I'm going to buy one Airbnb or one hotel, the freedom and the value actually come from once you start plugging additional acquisitions into the system that you just created. Mm-hmm. Because if you can do the same
thing... How do you build an acquisitions team that finds and sources and negotiates deals and funds deals on your behalf?
That's right. Yeah, and something that I love that you've done inside of Action Academy is you're continuing to build onto this, is you've essentially created an economy.
Yep.
A self-fulfilling economy inside, so that everybody gets paid, everybody wins, every resource is in there. And it's how I'm modeling my community. I'm not there yet, but that's like the vision, is to be able to create a self-sustaining economy inside of the community, so that people have all these resources and they're not just being sold a dream and with some guy that's just trying to make a couple bucks on them. Like,
yep.
Yeah. And that's something that I love about you. And I'm not trying to just like juice you up right now, but out of all the gurus and the people online, like Brian is the real deal, and he really cares about people. And he's also a freaking asshole, but he's a well-dressed asshole.
How am I an asshole?
No, I just think you're opinionated. You're opinionated.
I'm opinionated. Yeah, I'm opinionated, but I have strong beliefs loosely held.
That's right.
I think most people should adopt that idea, where it's like, hey, look, I think about things a certain way, but if you present me with new information, I will change my mind, and I will quickly pivot my strongly held beliefs to this new reality. Because look, like, you need the data. You need the data to be able to make an informed decision, right? And to your point of what you just said, the number one skill set that people, if they focused on this one skill set, which they can do in their corporate job today, is the one unlock to everything else. They're so focused on, how do I become the best investor to build passive income, right? You need to become a leader. Yep. As soon as you learn the skill of leadership, passivity will all of a sudden materialize in your life, because people don't realize of the passive real estate and everything. You know why it's passive? It's because other people are managing it and running into the problems. Yes. They're doing it for you. Your multifamily is passive because you have property managers, and you have freaking on-site showing specialists, and you have freaking tech stack running the back end of it, and you have like freaking the Rentium and all the different softwares that are doing it with an entire team of support staff. It's all people.
Yeah, when I look at my goals list,
yeah,
and we're under contract on a ground up development hotel, and there's a bunch of other stuff on there. Every single thing that I look at on there is dependent on me elevating my ability to be a better leader and enrolling people into my vision, so that they will want to work on and partner on these projects so that it can all get done. Yeah. But it's not me going and building this hotel on my own. I'm not the architect. I'm not the designer. I'm the visionary. I want to be involved in certain things that are what light me up and are my superpower, but no longer can anything I do involve me actually doing. It needs to be me being the leader, changing my state into this elevated leader role to actually go accomplish things. And then what that does is that gives other people the ability to enroll in my vision, be a part of it. They can elevate their standard. They can be a part of the big vision. They get more excitement. They get more fulfilled. They get paid. That's what leadership and building businesses does. Is it brings more people into your world and your vision to make it a better place in whatever vision you have. It gives them access to more money, more people, more this, to connect with people and create more value in the world.
Yeah, well, you cannot have control and freedom simultaneously. Cannot have control and freedom at the same time. So for people to go back to money, right? So if you're holding, like, a closed fist can't receive. So if you're holding on to your money like this, and you're just like shaking with how tight you're holding on to it. So you're not giving. If you're not giving, you're not living, dude. Secret to living is giving. And so if you're so tight with your money that you're not letting any of it flow even for yourself, right? Then how are you going to receive? Because this is how you receive right here. Your hands are open. Yeah. If you're like this, like how's the universe, how's God, how's your employer going to give you anything more?
I will tell you, because I grew up in a household where like a penny saved is worth more than...
Oh, I did too.
Yeah. Like you work your ass off to save money.
Yeah.
You drive across town to go get gas, right? You're wasting more gas than you're going to save on money, right?
Yep.
And so in the last 2 years, I have released my fears and my mindset around like the amount of tips, the how much I tip. Like I am like letting my money go, and I'm like actively working on reducing those rackets of like, this is not worth it. And I will tell you, I've spent about $200,000 on coaching, mentorship programs, and it is being returned to me in droves, right? Because I am trusting that energy is money and it's going to flow back to me.
Yeah, man, it's funny. And that's been true for me over and over and over again, is when I just like let go. The way that you can visualize this that served me more than just about anything in life is I used to think that life is like this cup where it like you need to have your cup full. I mean, we've all heard that. It's like, make sure your cup is full before you pour into others. And then I had a guy one time say to me, he's like, well, dude, just cut the bottom off the cup. And whatever flows to you flows through you.
That's right.
And then it infinitely goes into other people. So now it's like, dude, I'm divinely led. I'm freaking blessed. I'm here for a purpose, and I'm here for a mission, man. And like God put me on this earth to help and serve others. And like, so I'm divinely led here, dude. And so for me, every time he gives me a blessing, that blessing gets multiplied into hundreds and thousands of people. And so I've made that my reality. It didn't used to be that, but it is today, which is why I move how I move. It's how I speak because like this is why I'm here on this earth, is to create impact and to let everything that flows to me flow through me. And every single time that I've done this, man, it is just like every single thing happens when it's supposed to happen. So one of my favorite quotes is, God's delays are not God's denials. And it's been a toughie for me over the last 3 years, because I've been single looking for a freaking relationship and I couldn't freaking find her. I was like, where and when is this going to happen? And then it finally happened, and I was just like, got it. Oh, this is easy. Like, this feels natural. This feels right. Like, it's weird.
Because you became the person that was ready to receive.
Yeah,
you opened the hands.
That green light turned on, and I was like, okay, cool. So a lot of people are just like kicking and screaming, and this is actually something that I recommend is, again, being rich is not going to make you happy, but it'll give you enough of what's called margin, so free time, to start exploring and like taking walks in the woods and actually asking good questions. And one of the questions I asked was, why, since I'm free, am I so stressed out, pissed off, and miserable? So, it's like, Naval Ravikant has a quote where it's like, if you're so smart, why are you miserable? Yeah. It's like, if you are rich and smart and miserable, that's the ultimate failure as a human, right? And so a book that I recommend is The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And so the premise of the book is essentially that you go and you just surrender to the universe, you act and you stay in motion, you stay in movement, you don't sit and wait for things to happen, but you kind of Forrest Gump it, you just kind of go out there and you experience life, and you have no set expectations of what should happen, because unhappiness comes from having an expectation that's here in reality being here. So the bigger of a discrepancy between an expectation and reality is the larger amount of unhappiness that you experience. And so if you just realize that your expectations just were pulled out of thin air, and that reality is reality regardless. It's you can either get in the car in the direction that reality is driving, or you can choose to be like dragged along in the gravel, holding on to the door handle outside. Same reality, different way of flowing with it. And so for 3 years, man, I was just in the gravel. I was like, I want a relationship. Why am I not getting a relationship? Dude, I didn't have capacity. I was freaking giving everything to my business. I didn't have time to go nurture a freaking loving relationship. You know what the craziest thing is my girlfriend now, Nat, she's been single for 3 years too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Same thing. And she reached a day where she was like, oh, I guess I'm just going to be the fun aunt. Because she was working in her career. She was working on her. She just couldn't find anyone that lived up. And
which is wild because she's, insanely attractive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say that with, all respect because,
how dare you?
I know, right? But
I was like, baby, you be as hot as you want to be. I can fight.
Exactly. Yeah. But she's insanely attractive. Yeah. She's very successful. And she's like, from what I've seen, like one of the most loving, giving people.
She's wonderful, man.
Yeah. So for her to be single for that long is like,
crazy.
It's a divine timing thing, right?
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she said the same about me. Like I've been the perpetual bachelor, right? But it's kind of been funny because the joke that I've made is I may have been the only like eligible bachelor in Austin, Texas that had some financial security and actually wanted to have a wife and kids.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be, what do they call it? Peter Pan syndrome, where they're 30 and 40, they still haven't figured out what they want and what they're looking for. Dude, I wrote out every single thing that I wanted her to be. Like I wrote down like, this is my dream partner and these are the characteristics that she possesses, and she possesses them to a scary degree.
This is something that people don't do enough or don't believe in enough is manifestation. But not just
everything,
but not just throwing it up and saying, oh, I need this, I want this. It's like actively writing it down in such specific terms and revisiting it every single day or every single week and speaking it out loud and telling people. How much has manifestation like been a part of your life?
There's 3 parts of manifestation, and people don't do 2/3 of it, which is why it doesn't happen for them. So part number 1 is identification. So it's like, okay, cool. Like, what do I want, right? And then the number 1 is, so identification. The second part is identity in yourself. Like, who do you need to become to get it? Number 3 is location. So where do you need to be to get it? So who do you need to be and where do you need to be to get this? And so, in the context of business, I was like, well, I want to be happy, healthy, wealthy. I want to be fit. I want to be moving. I want to be in great shape. And then also, great with media and building a great business. And I was like, I'm moving out of Atlanta. I'm moving to Austin. Right. So I moved to where I wanted to be and I became who I wanted to be in order to manifest this new reality for me. Same thing with finance. I'm like, okay, what rooms do I need to be and who do I need to be to become an 8-figure business owner? I call it 8-figure Brian. Same thing with the relationship. I said, okay, cool. Here's who I want to date. Here's who I want to marry. Who do I need to be to attract that person, which is something that people conveniently forget. I'm sorry, my brothers and kings. If you're overweight and balding, you're not going to go get you a Venezuelan supermodel. It's just not going to happen. You need to work on you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in every single capacity to become the type of person. And then I did this crazy, stupid thing, which is I asked, where does my dream partner hang out? Right? And then you're like, okay, well, where would she hang out? Like, why not go ahead and start doing those habits and doing those things independent so that maybe we can run into each other doing those same things. And for me, it was like a lot of traveling. And for me, it was learning Spanish. It's like, so I started learning Spanish and lived in Mexico. I lived in Colombia. I started traveling around. And I've made the joke on podcasts over and over again. Like, my wife's probably Latina and she probably speaks Spanish. And so I became really like, I was in the culture. I lived in the culture. I understand the culture. And so then all of a sudden I find one and she's like, speaking Spanish to me. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, whoa, you can't say that. Like, you're going to say that to me? And she's like, wait, you understand that? I was like, yeah. And it was cool, man. And so you can't get ready. You got to stay ready for all of it. You got to put yourself in position. But again, if you believe in God and the universe and God and the universe is going to give their blessings to like 1% of the population, it's going to be to the 1% that are turning on the green light and they've got their hands open. They're saying, hey, this is what I want. Can I have it, please?
And then they do what you're doing today and you're sending the elevator back down and you're helping people that need it. And I think that's why you're here. That's why I'm here with you. That's why you're here sharing the story.
Yeah.
And getting everything that you've ever deserved is because adding massive value into this world, helping people create massive income for themselves and sharing it. And I just appreciate you being here today, Brian.
Appreciate it.
This has been freaking epic. First guest to ever be returned on the podcast. And it could have been more fitting. So appreciate you. And as always, everybody, appreciate you. Love you. Peace.
Like and subscribe.